Sometimes your own judicial appointments can go against you. Is that what happened in this particular lawsuit, where some of the anti-DEI programs that the Trump administration has moved on have been struck down? To understand more, I'm going to give you a small slide deck, but before that, a small request to all of you to please like this video, and if you have not already subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. Here we go.
𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗡𝗥𝗘𝗦 is a magic and unique place with an overwhelming history.
𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗡𝗥𝗘𝗡 is the most inspiring place I have ever visited. I am grateful to all.
Judge strikes down Trump's anti-DEI school guidance. What happened? Well, the judge's name is Stephanie Gallagher. She was a Trump appointee, ruled in the Maryland federal court to strike down two Trump administration measures that sought to dismantle DEI, that is diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in United States schools and universities. The case originated from a lawsuit filed in February 2025 by the American Federation of Teachers, AFT, and the American Sociological Association, represented by Democracy Forward. Well, what happened was there were two memos issued by the Trump administration. The first one was issued on the 14th of February, and it declared that any consideration of race in admissions, hiring, financial aid, or student life as a federal civil rights violation. Then this was like an expanded interpretation of the 2023 Supreme Court decision on race in all admissions and all aspects of education. The second memo that was issued in April 2025 required state education agencies to certify no illegal DEI practices. They have to actually sign. This memo threatened violators with loss of federal funds and prosecution under the False Claims Act. Remember, I did a summary of all the different universities like UCLA, the Ivy League schools, and so on and so forth. So this is based on that. The stated goal was to end practices the administration viewed as a discriminatory towards white and Asian American students. Did I tell you that Asian American students are finding it very difficult to get into the UC system? I think I did a monologue on this. Very, very sad. I mean, these were the last resorts for those who were extremely talented and who were, scoring very, very high. And yet now the UC system, almost like a vengeance, they are trying to keep Asian American students out. It's not just Indian American, it's also Vietnamese American and Chinese American, Taiwanese American, you name it. Asian American is a big umbrella under which all of us come, and looks like this whole community is now being targeted. So who is getting the admissions? Well, I have to really find out who is getting it. I can tell you the Indian American kids and the Asian American children are not. Now, what are the key points of the ruling? She ruled that the DOE, Department of Education, violated procedural requirements of the Administrative Procedure Act, APA, by issuing the memos without proper legal process. The memos created a sea change in DOE regulations, causing educators to fear punishment for lawful speech, including discussions on systemic racism or DEI initiatives. When the judge ordered the DEO to rescind the memos but clarified she took no position on the merits of the DEI policies, focusing solely on procedural violation. So basically what she is pointing out is that you did not look through the legal ramifications of what you wrote down in these two memos. So maybe if the Trump administration goes back and words it differently, would this have a different results? Well, let's read on. The judge dismissed the government's claim that the memos were mere reminders of anti-discrimination laws, noting their significant regulatory shift. So these are all legal setbacks that Trump administration continues to get. And this is one which is surprising because this was his appointee. So presumably this person was a Republican in her mindset, and yet she ruled against the Trump administration. I have a feeling that perhaps in their rush to file things, they may have missed a thing or two. That's why they lost out on the procedural part of this memo. In April 2025, the California Department of Education refused to comply with the DOE certification demand, defending DEI programs as being lawful. You know, California has a huge problem. I mean, it's not, they have no funds right now, and they've already jacked up the interest rates, insurance premiums, anything, electricity charges, water rates, to up to our eyeballs. The citizens are not going to pay for any more shit that the Newsom administration wants to thrust down our throats. I'm really selling you the facts. I'm not making it up. Ask any Californian, they are just rolling their eyes. I mean, for the pleasure of being on shaky ground, the cost is turning out to be extremely high. So here are some feedbacks. Tanya Ortiz Franklin from LA School Board celebrated the ruling as a victory for democracy and DEI, emphasizing the value of inclusive education. Rocio Rivas, again LASB, expressed relief, noting the ruling protests multilingual. You know, California now pays for gender changer operations. There are some really lousy, loony laws that they have crafted. I have a feeling this entire slate of assemblymen and senators, state senators of state California need to be completely fired forthwith. At least in 2026 elections, I hope most of them get dumped by the voters because it's gone too far. I mean, even for Democrats. Sky Perryman, President and CEO of Democracy Forward, celebrated the ruling as so these people are, celebrating all these, the California's decision. But you also have to remember, viewers, that UCLA is losing a lot of funds and they are now beginning to turn their ship around and they are going to implement non-DEI. I have a feeling, see, the DEI policy, there's a fundamental wrong thing about it. It is just that they insist on equality of outcomes. That never happens. Now, there have been similar rulings against Trump policies by other Trump appointees. So Gallagher is not the only one. Judge Dabney Friedrich on August 8th ruled against the administration's withholding of funds from the National Endowment for Democracy. You know, this is the Democratic feeding machine. Just like USAID, the NED, feeds money for all kinds of loony things. And this one also, the administration's withholding of fund has been ruled as illegal. Another judge, Thomas Cullen, also a Trump appointee, on 13th of August expressed skepticism over administration's sweeping lawsuit against the entire Maryland federal bench. By the way, that's a very interesting suit. The Department of Justice is suing the entire bench. I don't know how that's going to come down. I think the Supreme Court of the United States may have to rule on it. And it's a very interesting case. So now, why does this matter? Remember that the Republicans are taking aim fair and square at the DEI policies, which they say has completely messed up, hiring practices, admissions, all sorts of things, and also even in high schools. And this is something that they implemented across, federal agencies, schools, and private institutions. As a matter of fact, much of the government hiring, it is believed, was from hiring people to implement these DEI policies. So that's when, since the DEI itself went, many of the people got fired. His administration has targeted federal funding to enforce compliance with anti-DEI policies. This ruling represents another legal setback to Trump's DEI crackdown, with opposition from his own judicial appointees. If your case is wrong, then you're not going to win it. You'll have to present a proper case. And on the other side, you have the Democrat-funded legal bodies. These people have been at this for a long time. They know how to draft these petitions. They are very clever at doing that. So maybe, like I said, the Trump administration is trying to get a lot of things done in a very short amount of time. And perhaps that's why some of these slip-ups seem to have occurred. So what's next in line? What happens next? It's unclear. I have a feeling they'll resubmit the case, maybe in front of the same judge, but under the proper process, after proper process, like legal vetting and so on and so forth. And I think if that fails, then they may start escalating it to the higher court and the higher court until the SCOTUS decides it. That's what I think will happen. Now, This is one side, but this does not stop the federal government from investigating DEI practices being put in place in many universities. So that's continuing to go on. Like I said, that funding is much more important for the universities, and that's where I think the Trump administration is going to prevail. I've heard rumors that the Harvard is wanting to settle for, I think, a fine of $550 million or something, and they continue to deny that any such thing is in place. But there are also new universities such as the Duke University, which is also facing probes for their DEI policies. I can tell you one thing, viewers, US universities have become toxic. It's a golden opportunity for India to up their game, to increase the standard of some of their universities, and also come up with online effective education programs, and you can really turn this thing around in a very short time of 5 years. I don't think the DEI stuff is going away, because Democrats will feel like, okay, if we come back to majority in 2026 in the House and the Senate, then we can stall and perhaps we can even enact something. So this is probably going to drag it out. For 3 years, nothing will happen, but they will be thinking, okay, if a Democrat comes back, we'll restore all these things back. So assume the worst case. Assume that's what's going to happen. What's wrong in India upping its own game? That's what I would recommend. Anyway, what's the conclusion? This highlights tensions between the administration's anti-DEI agenda and judicial oversight, including from Trump-appointed judges. The ruling offers immediate relief for schools and upholds DEI efforts, but possible appeals and ongoing federal probes mean the fight over race-conscious policies are not over. The decision boosts states like California and groups like the American Federation of Teachers, but Trump's anti-DEI push may still spark legal and political fights in education. So this is something that is going to perhaps continue. Like I said, some of the things are blatantly wrong. And every time something like this happens, you need to see, there is something called as the affirmative education policy, and under that many people underprivileged do get admissions. But what happens is, when you add that and then say equality of outcome, that means regardless of what kind of a score this person gets, the student gets, that person should get an A. That doesn't work. That doesn't work in real world. Unless you are qualified, you don't get a job. So this is where the problem comes. And they have somehow forced it, because they know that some of the candidates that they are putting as the DEI candidates are just not good enough. I'm sorry to say this thing. I mean, you may agree with me or disagree with me, but this is the fact. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.